So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Truth webinar series in February 2021. It's the first one in 2021. And what we really want to talk about today is a quick look back at some of the programs that launched in 2020. So we have two special guests who I'll introduce in a short while. But just also wanted to alert you that we had, if you're new to our webinar series, we had webinar series last year covering a multitude of fantastic topics. So you can find them at the Truth, on the Truth website. So truth.co.za/webinars, and you can find all the resources you'd like under that URL. So let's get straight into it because I don't want to run out of time with our special guests. Here's just a very small handful of a few of the brands that launched last year. We did speak to Mata Bochel from Vodacom on our webinar last year after they launched the Vodabucks. And we also spoke with Neil Schroeder from ShopRite and Checkers at the Leaders in Loyalty Summit. So both of those were available at the time if you joined us at Leaders in Loyalty, or the Vodacom webinar is available on the Truth website. But we have special today, we're very excited to be able to talk about the Wimpy Rewards launch and Dstv Rewards launch. And we have Kavir from Dstv and Mike from Wimpy, which I will go straight into. So Q&A is for either Wimpy or Dstv, if you could wait until the end, and then I've got a section for that. I'm going to start with Wimpy simply because it's a project that Truth is very proud to have been involved in. So we had the pleasure of working with the Wimpy team and the Famous Brands team, Mike in particular, who I'm going to introduce now. And it was a real pleasure to work with the team on such a great strategy and a great project and a great program that we're now going to hear about. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Mike Emmanuel. Mike, if you'd like to switch on your screen, and then you can be the star of the show while I give you some introduction. So Mike has been involved in digital projects for the majority of his career for well over 20 years. And obviously now he's technology manager at Famous Brands Group, which those of you who don't know the Famous Brands Group, which I don't think there'll be many there, but it's a gargantuan company in terms of the big brands that they represent, but a super slick, efficient company in terms of how they run their brands. So Mike can obviously tell you more about it, but Wimpy being the brand that Truth worked with in particular for the launch of their Wimpy Rewards program. Mike has been involved in the digital transformation of the brands within Famous Brands, but as you can imagine, there's over 2,000 restaurants, multiple iconic South African brands, and I think with COVID-19, which I'm sure we're going to hear about, more of a rapid transformation came about in 2020, which we look forward to hearing about. So other than that, as a career, Mike just let me know he's got 2 boys, 2 gorgeous dogs, and a wife, he says, who outshines her on every level. So I think what a beautiful introduction. I already love that, Mike. So I'm just going to position the Wimpy Rewards in terms of the loyalty white paper. It obviously didn't feature last year because it wasn't launched yet. And then you'll see here that in the Truth and Brand Map white paper, you can see the restaurant and QSR lineup. It's an incredibly competitive environment. So let's hope we see the Wimpy Rewards program featured this year. I'm not sure because the research is happening now, so it's still early-ish days, but even so, we can take a look at that. And just to let you know, I've been reading this morning, in fact, listening to the US, where they have announced huge relaunches in loyalty with the 2 iconic brands of Burger King and McDonald's. So when people tell me, is our loyalty programs evaporating or is loyalty dead? I think we can look to other countries and say no, but we can definitely look to South Africa and say no. So they're not dead, they're very much alive. So Mike, I'm going to turn the PowerPoint slides off now, so it's just you and me. And without further ado, I think let us know, very simply, how does it work?
Sure. So first of all, Amanda, thanks for inviting me along. It's very exciting to be able to talk to you and to talk to the audience that's here today. I just want to clarify something. I think you positioned it as maybe that I said I was, far superior to my wife. Clearly the other way around. My wife outshines me in every element. So I just want to make sure that that was clear. But yeah, so the Wimpy Rewards program was really, we launched it in the middle of last year, in the middle of the lockdown. It was quite a bold move on part of the brand. And quite simply, what we've done is we've tried to create a loyalty program that isn't overly complicated. I think one of the beauties of working with you, Amanda, and with your team was that you gave us some very good direction in terms of what works and what doesn't work. So we try to keep the program simple. We certainly were trying to overcomplicate it to begin with, and we realized pretty quickly that it needed to be brought down to a level that isn't going to require a consumer to have an advanced degree in astrophysics to understand what they're getting. So literally what we've done is we've launched an app that is earn rewards as much as you spend. So once you come into our restaurant, you obviously register for the app, you give us a bit of detail about yourself. Some of the key items we look for are your birthday, whether you've got kids. Those are obviously things that are important to a brand like Wimpy. And that obviously then goes towards talking to how we communicate with the consumer on the outside. The app itself, pretty simple in terms of the mechanism. You come into the restaurant, you order your meal, you pay, and when you receive your bill, there is a scannable QR code on the till slip. You literally scan that QR code and you earn loyalty points. You can obviously pay with your linked credit card. And your loyalty points are immediate. So you come in and you spend X immediately on payment. What you then see is the amount of cash that is available to you to spend on your next purchase. And that next purchase can be immediately if that's what you choose to do. The app has lots of great features, store locators, store information, so you can see opening, closing, where they are, how to get their directions. There's a menu available on the app. There's gifting. You can send gifts to whoever you want to. So if you want to send some money to your kid who's studying at a university or somebody else, whoever it may be, you can easily send them a voucher that can be used in store. There are promotions that will run on the app. We do give out vouchers from time to time. We certainly give out birthday vouchers. We have lots of information about what's happening in the brand, which is accessible right on the home screen. So it's nice and easy for the consumer to see what's going on. And then what we did post-launch, a couple of months post-launch, was we actually integrated the ordering capability as well into the front end of the app. So a consumer can now go in, they can just transact and earn loyalty or spend their loyalty points if that's what they want. But they can actually also now place an order for collect or pick up or take away a delivery from the store, obviously where the stores are participating and doing delivery. So, and that includes curbside delivery and all the other elements that go into that.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the thorough overview, Mike. I'm sure when I was a student, which is many, many years ago, I would love to have received a voucher as a gift for a Wimpy meal in my hungry student days. So lovely to hear that. So you've launched fairly recently. So what can you share with us about the performance so far? How's it gone?
So quite astonishingly, actually. I mean, like I said, we launched in July last year, which was right in the dead of the lockdown. And I think the brand team were of the opinion that the app would add a lot of value to the brand, especially during a lockdown period where people were looking for convenience and looking for, anything contactless around the pandemic. And what we found was that when we started off, obviously the first few weeks, it took a little bit of time to get out the gates. There was some marketing budget put behind it. There were some initiatives. And then what really happened was quite astonishing. We put quite a aggressive opening offer onto the app. So anybody who downloaded received a full burger meal and Coke. Very kindly sponsored by our partners at Coca-Cola. And what we saw was the take-up was phenomenal. We expected that to take a few weeks to run through the allotted number of meals on offer. We ran out, I think it was in a few days. And there was a really nice tailwind that came through from that offer as well, where people kept on downloading the app. And initially our concern was, are people thinking they're still going to get this offer because, it's closed now. There were only a finite amount available. And we were worried that there was going to be an upswing in complaints and people phoning in saying, there's been bait and switch and we saw your ad and, now there isn't this offer available. And actually not a word, not a peep. People were quite happy. The tailwind actually came from the fact that what happened in turn, by getting that sudden surge, We started ranking highly on the app stores. We became quite visible. People were very interested to know what was happening. There was a lot of chatter out there, social media. And it just carried on with this tail, like I say, to the point where now, membership went from 0 to, 6 figures pretty quickly. Obviously, I'm not going to share the exact user numbers, but it's large. Certainly, we broke all targets that we had for the app, certainly for the first year. Yeah, and in fact, outperforming some of our sister apps in some of our other brands already in terms of how quickly it got there anyway. So it's been astonishing. The performance is great. The engagement is high. You also worry a little bit that when you do an aggressive offer like that, you might get a lot of people who join just to redeem an offer, and you may never see them again. But the brand team have worked quite well at making sure we're retaining people. Obviously, you can always do more, you can always do better. The engagement rates are good. The average basket rates are 40 to 50% higher than what we would see on an average in-store purchase. So it's been a phenomenal ride so far, and long may it last. And hopefully the brand will just take this from strength to strength.
Great, Mike. Thanks for sharing some of those stats. It's great to hear. We often hear retail basket size versus non-members. So thank you for sharing that with transparency. And I loved my question I was going to ask you is, have you actually exceeded your original? I mean, I'm quite aware of what those targets were from our work with you, but those original targets, and it's absolutely lovely to hear that you've broken those original targets. So fantastic. So you've told us how it works. You've given us an indication that it's gone out of the starting blocks successfully. Strategically, why did Wimpy decide to do this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think a brand like Wimpy, and you referred to it earlier, we are very blessed at Famous Brands to work with these very iconic brands, and Wimpy is probably one of the most iconic brands. When you see knockoff shirts and T-shirts and things at certain retailers, and little baby grows that have Impy in the Wimpy bun, the burger bun logo around it, you kind of realize that you're dealing with something really, really fun. I think Wimpy is a brand that's over 60 years old. It's over 50 years old. It's been through some changes, and the market's gone through a lot of changes. I think the demographics have shifted. The expectation of your consumers shifted. There's a move towards that convenience realm, certainly the rewards element. And I think what the brand decided strategically was, Wimpy wasn't necessarily being seen as this very tech-friendly or tech-savvy brand. And I think part of it was around the fact that it needed just to give itself a little bit of a boost in terms of its tech credentials. That was part of it. The other side of it was also just making sure that you're continuously adding value back to your consumer, because ultimately these things are always about the value that you're going to give, and how do you go about increasing your value to a consumer in order to make your brand top of mind, and a venue of choice. We know consumers these days have loads of choice of places they can go to. So strategically, it was about, how do we keep the loyal base loyal? How do we get those guys that are maybe moving around a little bit to have a good reason, to now come and enjoy the Wimpy meal they always enjoyed, but also get a little something out of it. And also just adds a little bit to the fun factor in terms of, now you've got an app, you can earn a bit of loyalty, you can do a bit of fun stuff with it. And strategically, it's a watch the space kind of approach as well. There's lots of plans, lots of things we're trialing at the moment, some interesting opportunities around the whole service model and how things are going to work, and how the app starts playing more and more towards how the consumer gets greater and greater convenience, and greater contactless ability in our stores. So yeah, so strategically, definitely about greater consumer value. And in our world as Famous Brands, as a major franchisor, we also have to be very aware of the fact that we don't only have consumers to worry about, we also have to worry about our franchisees and the value we're adding to them. And I think that was also part of the strategic imperative behind having an app, was giving the franchisees a mechanism that would also create a little bit more value to them, and that they could utilize as a tool as well to get people coming in and coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my most enjoyable times working with the Famous Brands group was when you asked us to prove the worth of loyalty or prove the worth of customer data to your franchisees across a different one of your brands. And I understand imperatively what that means. So that actually leads me on to the next question is, you know, you house so many of these phenomenal South African brands. What could be the bigger picture in customer terms, customer strategy terms for the Famous Brands Group?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it comes back to convenience, certainly when it comes to technology. You know, it's always about that value add, the convenience factor, being able to keep yourself front and central in top of mind. So it's really just about adding to the convenience layer across the board. So whether that's ordering apps, delivery apps, loyalty, and the like, those are the key elements. And then broadening the ability of ordering. So not just a singular channel. You know, how do you enable it so that people can really have that full omni-channel experience? They can order from anywhere, anyhow. And how is there consistency of experience throughout, whether you're sitting in the restaurant, you know, taking away or ordering remotely for a form of delivery. So big focus around that factor, you know, just the convenience element and the value adds.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking us back as an audience to the presentation from the Real Foods Group when Kauai, they won the South African Loyalty Awards, which maybe there's a much more competition now. But in terms of their discussion at the Leaders in Loyalty Conference was all around, you know, how does loyalty actually fit with this greater convenience? It's not just about an app giving away points. It's how does the whole thing, as you've just said, enrich the entire customer experience? It doesn't make sense to stand alone. So lovely to hear that. My last question, Mike, please. And then there are questions coming through from the audience, but I'm going to save them to the end. Some of the things you've said actually answer a little bit of the questions, but I'll double check in on that in a moment. But what actually was the most difficult part of this project?
So, yeah, another good question, and one that always makes me think of two things you said, and I'll never forget. In fact, I remember where we were sitting when we had the discussion. And you were very clear to us as a team around two issues. One, if you don't get your teams on board, and by teams meaning your staff and your people in store, and you don't get them to be salespeople for the app, you're going to have a very hard time getting out there and pleasing your consumers. And the other one is, you know, watch out for what your own staff will do in terms of learning how to work the system and get bypassed, you know, bypass any kind of issues and earn themselves rewards maybe that they shouldn't be. So I think the hardest thing, to be blunt, has been we are a fully franchised environment. So we do rely heavily on our franchise partners to make these things work with us. We do have a complicated point of sale environment as well. So for us, and going back to the Real Foods webinar, I recall they were saying, you know, it's that age-old swear word as well of integration and the difficulties around things like integration. We're very lucky because the partners that built the app with us are already fully integrated with the POS systems that we use. So it actually was pretty seamless from a technology point of view. It wasn't that difficult to get guys in. Our franchisees were also quite used to the system because we've been working on a non-formalized loyalty program basis with them around vouchering and rewards in the past. But I would definitely say that the operational side of it was the most difficult part of the rollout. It's about the training and the education, getting your franchisees to understand what it is that you're offering, how it works, how it impacts their world and their bottom line, because obviously, you know, they've got to participate as well in funding and going towards the pot. And also training all the staff, you know, especially where as the franchisor, these aren't your staff. These staff are actually the franchisee's staff. And you've got to be able to provide that training basis that makes it accessible and simple for people to understand how the program works, how the technical side of the program works, and how you're going to support them with the technical side. Because a lot of the scary part that came up for everyone was, what happens when they start asking me questions about tech? And I don't know how to answer questions about tech. And, you know, we had to make sure that we had a really good support system in place for when and where that kind of thing happened. So training, and simplifying, making it accessible. And in a lot of cases, making staff in store, giving them an incentive where you possibly can as well to get them on board, and actually reminding the consumer that you've got this rewards program, they should use it, they should give it a try.
Thank you so much, Mike, for sharing that. I love the subject matter of operationalizing the loyalty program. So I'm just double checking I've got the right thing on the screen. Yes, just as a check there. So I just want to say thank you so much. There will be questions, there were some more, but I really love that last piece around the operation is truly like, I can see a future discussion point for a Leaders in Loyalty conference, so hang in there, please.
No problem.
Okay, so please don't disappear. You can turn your video off unless you particularly want it left on. And I will now introduce Kavir. So thank you so much, but as I said, please don't disappear.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm right here.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. So Kavir, welcome. Kavir Maharaj, who's the Senior Manager for DSTV Rewards. Kavir, if I could persuade you to turn on your video now. I'm going to play a short video and then I'll do a quick introduction to, actually no, I'll do the introduction to yourself first, I think, before the beautiful video you've sent us. So Kavir has had his career, Kavir, I can't quite see you yet, actually. I'm just checking.
I'm not sure. I've got the video on, but let me try.
Not to worry, it just gave me a variety.
There we go.
There we go. You're right there, thank you. So your career really has been in the rewards and loyalty space for many, many years, but what's really interesting is you weren't stuck to one sector. So you've really been across all the sectors, as you said, retail, banking, telco, insurance, and now media and entertainment as the Senior Manager for DST Rewards. So really great to have you, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, because I've been a lot not as close to your program, and as well as being a senior manager, you're also flying that beautiful flag of being a father to a spirited 5-year-old. So I hope he's keeping you busy. So let's play the video you sent us, which I think will give everyone a great quick introduction to your program, and then we'll get on with our interview.
10 lucky DSTV reward subscribers where their money can't buy virtual meet and greet with Idols judge and host Randall and Proverb.
So thank you so much for joining the DSTV Rewards program, and we really look forward to chatting to you.
I'm just checking to have other talents, maybe cooking or whatever. If you could pick a theme song to describe who your life is right now, what song would you choose?
That's my best question yet.
Is which soccer teams do you guys support?
Soccer team, yeah, that's the right thing.
What is your most embarrassing childhood experience?
Yeah, you're not going to share it.
How did the parents feel about you going into entertainment? Was that supportive?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
My dad always says he would sleep better if one of us were at least a doctor.
I'll keep on following you guys. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. You're awesome, guys. Thank you so much for making the time for me.
Get more with rewards from exclusive competitions, incredible experiences, box office movies, upgrades, and Showmax discounts. So join DSTV Rewards right now on my DSTV app and start earning rewards right away. It's too easy.
I love those words. Sorry, I love those words. It's too easy. It's always our opening line with what a loyalty program must be. It must be simple and easy. So if we just position the broader loyalty landscape from the Truth and Brand Map white paper, obviously DSTV Rewards weren't launched when this survey was done at the start of last year. And the only brand really featuring in your not the only brand, but there are, you know, you've got New Metro and Ster-Kinekor as the entertainment. So again, as I said to Mike, we look forward to seeing Wimpy Rewards, we hope, on the white paper results, and the same for yourselves. So I'm going to turn the video off now so we can actually see you, Kavir, which is much more important than everyone seeing me, and just go straight into a few questions. So you've kind of given us a nice video to warm us up, but how does DSTV Rewards work for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that video very aptly, you know, puts it together in terms of what we intend on DSTV Rewards kind of delivering. And I think to answer your question, or I think the kind of thing you kind of proposed initially in the call is, are rewards and loyalty programs dead or dying? And if anything in SA, we've seen the opposite happen. You've got the number of brands you put up there that actually launch loyalty programs in probably one of the most uncertain times across the world. Just shows the impetus around customer value and managing customer value with intent. And I think that's kind of the unique place that we sit in as the loyalty fraternity. There's always been questions, I guess, around the industry, and I think the same quite interestingly enough has been asked within the DSTV and I like to position as the paid media environment, if you want to call it, or paid TV industry. So yeah, we've got the new metros and the Stekenikos and the like, but switching on your TV every day is quite different. So an exact same question has been asked within our business. How do we do rewards, and then secondly, how do we do rewards? Because it's quite a unique industry, or quite a unique business in that. But ever since coming into the business, we've looked at it with very different eyes, and when having to walk into the doors of DSTV just opens you up to such a completely unique environment. I mean, like you said before, I've been in the different industries in terms of retail, banking, etc. And you walk into this business, and you're in front of celebrities, and you're in front of you got massive events, and you've got production, and you've got music, etc. Everything basically ties in back to TV and what you watch on there. We've got major partnership brands that we partner with, both from a production and from a media perspective. So it really gave us the opportunity to utilize that and actually create an asset that customers have been asking us for. But it was interesting because it's a very different product. It's not a simplistic product like you would get walking into a store, or buying online, or whatever the case may be. It's consumption based in terms of you switch on your TV, and that's how you engage with this particular brand. So it was a very interesting challenge. I'm glad we were up for the challenge as a business. We had great support, and when we presented the strategy, it almost seemed to us as a no-brainer in terms of how we deliver some value to customers. So yeah, very excited. We're very very happy with the launch, and excited to see how our customers engage in it. But as you've seen in that brief clip, it seems to be working so far. Yeah.
Great, thank you. When did you launch? Sorry, I missed that. When was the actual launch date?
Yeah, we launched, again, like Mike, there's a lot of similarities between the two programs because we've had to launch during the same period. So we launched in September, towards the end of September last year. So yeah, we're a little fledgling when it comes to the, to the loyalty and reward space, both from a, from a product perspective, I guess, and also from a loyalty and reward side of things.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, but I think you've answered it already, is why did you launch? And you've already said, really, and certainly in uncertain times, to be able to add customer value and to be able to manage the customer value experience. So let me go on to the next question, but if you've got more to say on why you launched strategically, then please feel free to share.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, strategically, when we look at the base, I think, the answer is quite simple. I think it's for very similar reasons, any other business would run a loyalty or reward program itself. I guess your first answer to the customer value, customers have been asking DSTV for a long time. And if we consider the DSTV base, we've got customers that signed up from day one and are still with us. You've got customers who are signing up, new customers, new generations and new segments of customers. And it's almost become, I mean, we all sit here from the loyalty fraternity perspective and we look at large corporates across the country, and it started to become a baseline product. Today you can't have a product without a reward program. It's almost, if a customer signs up, they're asking you, where's your reward program? It's not a case of should we, shouldn't we? It's a case of how do we deliver value? Obviously we kind of wrap it in rewards and we brand it in that way, but effectively it's delivering value back to customers, and in return there's loyalty, and there's you're driving product uptake and the rest. So yeah, I mean, and unlike any other industries, we've got competition. We probably haven't for a while, but now with the advent of fiber and internet and fast speed internet, that's changed. So we've got to evolve. We've got to speak to our customer needs. and definitely try and obviously help those the different KPIs within the business.
Oh, definitely. It's great you've said that. I was asked to do a very short interview last week with Bruce Whitfield on The Money Show, and his title, obviously those of us who know Bruce know he's got a cracking sense of humour, and his opening line were, "Our loyalty program's evaporating." So I responded with, "No, they're not evaporating, Bruce, they're evolving." So, and as you say, there has been launches during this very unprecedented time. So good for you guys, lovely to see. So what can you share with us? I appreciate there's a lot of commercially sensitive information that you can't share, and I'll always respect that. But what can you share with us in terms of successes to date?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, and it's a weird one to say, but the success of the actual launch of the program, I think, together with the economic changes across that's happening, trying to firstly understand, we literally started the project for building DStv rewards in March. And that's literally when everyone went into lockdown. So I think that was obviously from a business perspective. But from a program side of things, we're sitting on 6 figures as well, like Mike. So that's certainly working for us. We're seeing massive digital engagement. Currently, and one of the, again, to the strategic side of why we actually, or one of the reasons why we launched was we want to drive digital engagement. We want to drive engagement with the DStv brand. At the moment, you're a customer, you sign up for a package on DStv, and your engagement is with the content. So you're actually engaging with the content, versus DStv as a brand. So from a reward side is we want to bring and we want to kind of, let's call it close that gap between engagement with our brand specifically and your interactions and how those interactions can be rewarding, as well as, hopefully drive some brand love, and it starts to kind of grow that side of things, as opposed to you just switching on your TV and it be a functional product as opposed to something you're actually engaging.
Yeah, as an emotional product, not just functional. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Mike. You have a very different business model than a team of franchisees. So what was the most difficult part of the implementation and the roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one was, like I mentioned, definitely having to start a program during COVID. I mean, I think there's so many complexities that come with that, because you're starting something in a business that have never done something like this in its past. You've got legacy systems, and you've got a variety of different sides of the business operating very differently. And the reward program, actually, the intention of it is to bring all of that together to a customer view. So when you go into the program, effectively you're starting to see your entire profile as a customer. You're starting to see all the products you have with us. You're now able to see how long you've been with us. It's right up there, and it actually rewards you for those type of things. I'll probably kind of give you guys an overview of how it actually works, but that's kind of how we had to bring the system together. We had to pull a lot of strings together, and also kind of lay it with new tech stack. So I wouldn't say it was a challenge, but rather quite a big one. Also, all of this done from your couch. So that was kind of, let's call it, one of the really difficult things. I think the other thing that really impacted us through the time was in COVID. And if you consider our world and the type of rewards we actually want to open up to customers, we want to take them and give them money can't buy experiences, like you guys just watched in that video. We want to take them to the entertainment. One of our key strategic pillars is the idea of rewards is to bring you closer to that entertainment, and improve your entertainment ecosystem. Now, if we consider what happened in COVID, a lot of the entertainment industry was pretty much flattened. You couldn't go to concerts, you can't meet and greet someone face to face, you can't go to stadiums. I mean, the number of assets this business has from that perspective in terms of sporting and taking customers backstage, etc., that was that's basically quite a big proposition for us. And during COVID, that's basically a pillar that almost disappeared. We've had to pivot, we've had to evolve to the point and be innovative around how we actually deliver some of these to the customer. And thankfully, we've able to kind of overcome those things. Technology helps us, but yeah, it's that we've kind of turned it around and making do with what we have.
Thanks, Kavir. My last question, and I see there's a few more questions come in from our participants, so I'll turn to those. My last question is, any exciting next steps you can share with us? 1 or 2 little sound bites?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, as things open up, I think we're going to be quite interested to see how, you know, how big and how, you know, the kind of propositions we're able to build. We've got quite a number of them actually lined up. So I think from that perspective, if you love your entertainment, you love your content, we're going to bring a whole different spin to it. How you actually earn rewards and how you actually engage in a reward program within our industry is going to be, you know, the sky's the limit. The types of things that we might be able to do is going to be quite interesting. So I think as we start to open up and the world opens up again, you know, we're going to really kind of try and shoot the lights out in that respect. But within the program itself, we constantly, you know, looking to put in new features. We've got a new feature that we're still building at the moment, which is called Challenges. And that's basically a very customized or bespoke way of rewarding our customers based on your particular profile. So if we see that Amanda loves, you know, cricket, for example. Sorry, what do you love? Suits.
Harvey from Suits.
Harvey from Suits. Actually, funny enough, I was chatting to one of our Exco members, and they actually had Harvey from Suits have a meet and greet with customers a couple of years ago, or I think there was a period of it. Yeah, so you know, then you never know. But yeah, I mean, that's the type of information. But obviously, the reward program itself also helps us gather that information. At the moment, if you just got a DSTV line, you know, we're only able to know so much. So you know, you telling us and you participating in certain rewards tells us and gives us that data to say, okay, Amanda loves cricket or loves Harvey, you know, and if ever there's an opportunity in that world, we'll present that to you. So, you know, I think that's kind of the really exciting part of this business, is that it's, you know, it's ever evolving. I think there's a number of great partnerships we're also looking at to enhance the proposition, you know, within our entertainment ecosystem, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I do remember the Harvey meet and greet. I had a meeting at your offices and I saw billboards of him all around the office. I'd missed the moment.
Yeah, you know, that's unfortunate situation at the moment. There's so much we can do, but unfortunately at the moment we just got to keep safe, I guess.
Kavir, thank you so much. Don't disappear, please, because I can see already there's a question or two. So I'm just going to open the Q&A box. I'm not going to put the presentation back up. So Mike, if you can, please switch on your turn off your mute and your video. Thank you. So the first question is back to you, Mike. It's from someone who's anonymous. So to what extent has the launch of your loyalty program helped to keep attracting footfall to Wimpy, especially in trying times for sit-down restaurants, which you may have already answered some of that.
Yeah, you know, I think it definitely helps. To quantify that is probably not as simple as we'd like right now. I think one of the key reasons for doing a loyalty program in an environment like ours is you want to identify the unidentified consumer to some degree. So, you know, without being able to do foot count, we do foot count, but without being able to do some kind of facial recognition when people are coming in and out of the store, which would be amazing, probably a little creepy for consumers. But yeah, you know, we know that it's definitely added value because we can see the uptick in terms of transaction count, and we can see the contribution that it's making to turnover. So ultimately, it's got to be having an effect and an impact on footfall into the restaurants. You know, it's never going to, you know, I don't think it's going to drive 50% increases, but I think, you know, if you can get a few percentage points out of that, that obviously is massive, especially when you've got 400 and something, you know, Wimpys out there.
Of course, yeah. I think any loyalty program that can produce the volumes of, if it was 50%, I think we'd all be rushing towards it. I think it may be the same individual asking the next question, and you have sort of answered this already, but let's just double check. You launched in the middle of lockdown, same for DSTV Rewards, but was it a survival tool?
So it's a good question. It's a slightly cheeky question, but no, I mean, that's definitely not the answer. You know, we were in a situation, we'd been planning this app for a very long time. We'd had a few stumbles along the way in terms of getting to the end point. So we actually were initially trying to launch this in February last year. and a few strategic changes led us to delaying by a couple of months. And really the decision, because of lockdown, wasn't let's do this now because, oh my God, the sit-down restaurants are in dire trouble. It was more of a case of, well, we're ready now. So do we go live during lockdown, or should we wait until lockdown changes? And I think you probably find a lot of businesses face the same thing, is you don't know what the future holds. How long is this pandemic going to last? You know, no one expects a pandemic, you know, to misquote a famous comedian. But the issue exactly is we were going to launch either during lockdown or after lockdown, and it didn't make sense to hold off. So we went live in the lockdown, and, you know, it certainly didn't harm anything. But again, as per the prior question, you know, you're not going to go and get a 50% increase through a loyalty program, and you're certainly not going to do anything like that overnight. I mean, to your guidance, Amanda, if you're getting 4, 5, 6% uplift, you're doing pretty damn well in a loyalty program. And at 4, 5% uplift, you're not saving a brand if a brand is in that much trouble. You know, you might help out, but you're certainly not going to save it from any dire consequence.
Yeah. And it's obviously been an exceptionally tough time for all industries, but restaurants certainly I'd put, as well as hospitality, at the top of that list.
Yeah,
Thanks,
restaurants out there have struggled. I mean, there's no question, the sit downs particularly. So, you know, anything that can help any of them, you know, that's ideal for everybody.
Thanks, Mike. I've got a question for Kabir, please, from Zandile. DSTV, why is the rewards app not linked to the Showmax and DSTV app?
You know, we sister companies, and it's two different customer bases. So DSTV Rewards is specifically targeted towards the DSTV subscriber base, but as we know that Showmax and DSTV, we've actually got an overlap within the DSTV Rewards program with Showmax. So you can earn up to 100% discount on Showmax subscription for the streaming customers, and in fact all our premium customers get it for free. So, and you also earn stars, which is a tiering currency within the program for having a Showmax account. So there is a marriage between the two to kind of bring them closer. But in order to earn your rewards or get access to DSTV Rewards specifically, it's targeted towards the DSTV subscriber base. But yeah, like I said, there's definitely, we brought in integrated Showmax into the actual reward program itself. In terms of it being as part of the DSTV app, so I know sometimes this is one of, let's call it from a market or customer perspective, we consume content on the DSTV app. So that's where the consumption takes place in terms of watching content. And then the My DSTV app is what we consider the customer or the self-service app. So that's where you would go and find your profile and be able to manage your accounts and do all the fantastic things you can do. You can pay via the app. And that's where we felt is the best place to hold rewards, because that's where you've got the customer and the customer service component of DSTV or our subscriber base. So you've got the consumption app, which is a completely whole different world in terms of where you watch DSTV, and we want you to go watch DSTV there. And then you've got the customer profile, customer profile management app, if you want to call it a self-service app, or My DSTV app. And that's where it's, you know, aptly fits, if you want to put it that way.
Aptly fits. Actually, from Zandile for Mike as well, a similar question. Why was a new app created instead of using the current existing platform?
So the current existing platform would have been a website at that point in time only. We didn't have an app prior to launching the rewards app last year. So yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how to answer that one. There is only one app. There's only one platform. There isn't anything separate in terms of what you can do on the web versus what's already sitting in the app.
It's quite possible, I think, because Wimpy has a global footprint. It could be an international Wimpy app that you could find.
Yeah, except the Wimpy UK guys haven't launched an app. In fact, it's something that's being spoken about. So no, but maybe there's something I'm not understanding there. Maybe Zandile can just add to the question in the box and give a bit of clarity, and I'm happy to answer the question.
Okay, thanks. Or I can connect you guys afterwards if required. George has a question for both of you, actually, and then anyone else, please do send any questions. This is the last question in the Q&A box. From George, is access to data for the end user an issue for either one of your apps in terms of customer engagement?
So
do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, it's something we're always acutely aware of, especially given the macro environment that we operate in. The app was built to not use too much data. We've obviously been quite aware of not having to put the onus on the consumer to use all their personal data in order to interact with us. Obviously, you know, the ideal would be to have a zero-rated app. Maybe it's something I can take up with Madabogo on a different conversation. But the truth is, what we do see, and Amanda, if I just go out of the Wimpy realm for a second, we do have other apps for some of our other brands, and one in particular that is really a massive online ordering app at this point in time. And you know, we see such a huge volume of transactions going through that app. It really gives us a sense that, you know, the average consumer is okay with using the small amounts of data that is required in order to get the convenience in return. But the short answer is, ideally, you don't want them to use data at all, which in our case is also why we enable all our stores with free Wi-Fi. So, you know, that if you are inside the store, then, you know, log on the free Wi-Fi and rather use our data at our cost.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Kabir?
Yeah, Mike is lucky in that sense, I guess. That's a good proposition to have, is come into store and download your app for free. We don't have that, unfortunately, but yeah, look, I think it is a definite challenge. I mean, if we look at the subscriber base of DSTV, it's all the way from super high LSM to, you know, to really low LSM. You know, so if we look at where we have satellite dishes, it's pretty much, you know, across the country. So, you know, having to app adoption is definitely let's call it a challenge for us within our middle to lower end segments. And it's not just the case of, I guess, you know, let's call it data costs and that type of thing, but it's also sometimes just fear within that particular base of signing up and having multiple apps, you know, on your smartphone. But if, you know, if we look at kids these days and how many apps and games they download, I guess that's going to change and evolve, you know, with time. But I guess in the current landscape across SA, we'll definitely see that. We'll continue seeing that for a little while until, you know, broadband and I guess data becomes a little more affordable. And that's potentially also one of the reasons, you know, we've got the two apps, you know, the DSTV, you know, the consumption side, because you're consuming, you need data, and then you've got the self-service side, which is a bit easier, less data, etc. So, you know, and we obviously on the website as well. So from a reward side, we're not just app based. It's on our website as well, which we're hoping that, you know, makes it a bit more accessible and a bit less onerous in terms of having to download an app to engage with the reward program. So yeah, and I mean, there might be other channels, you know, that we may look at going forward in terms of where we actually have customers engage with the program.
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks. Mike, Zandile is happy with your response regarding the separate app for Wimpy. So excellent. I don't have any more questions. We still have the same volume of participants online. So any other questions from anyone while we've got these two? Oh, one from Mike.
Yeah, I've got a question for Kabir. The way you categorize your app and your rewards program specifically, would you ever get to a point where you have a certain tier where the end user could actually choose a bouquet of channels instead of having to be locked into all of them?
I think that's such a popular question across, but that's more a product related question in terms of how a product is built and how it's kind of pushed out to customers. It's a tough one for me from a reward side to, you know, particularly answer that, because, you know, the team's working on that from a product aspect of it. I think to your point is, you know, you make burgers and you've got a rewards app. Similar type of worlds, you know, it's one's in the kitchen and one's on the internet. So I think it's the same principle here. But, you know, if I look at it in terms of where things are evolving towards, I think listening to the customer is quite important in terms of that. And I think the business is, you know, is kind of working at multiple types of products and services across. I mean, we recently launched Ad Movies as a add-on product. So there's definitely, you know, as from that perspective, we can see that, you know, kind of bundling different types of content together and having customers kind of, so at the moment, if you're in a lower package, lower than premium, you can technically bolt on extra movies onto that particular package. So yeah, I mean, I guess from a vision perspective, we've got to listen to the customer at the end of the day. But it's definitely a question, I guess, that has been asked before.
Sorry
Thanks,
to suck you in the deep end there. And then just to Amanda's point about Harvey from Suits, which my wife would 100% agree with her on. I just like to say that if there is ever opportunity, I'm quite happy to meet Scarlett Johansson. Thank you very much.
Funny enough, I've just emailed her, trying to get. No, I'm kidding. I've got a couple of famous people on my email, but I think it's definitely, I'll keep that one in the back pocket. And if anything ever happens, I've got your email address, Mike. But I think I think one of the interesting things that we're looking at is obviously looking at relevant content and seeing wherever we've got these great partnerships and trying to bring them on board. So our partnerships in the loyalty world is going to look very differently compared to our traditional type partnerships across industries. But yeah, we're very excited about that. Scarlett Johansson, I'll definitely take that one. I don't think I'm gonna say no.
Awesome. Thanks for putting up with me.
100%.
I have a couple of famous people on my list as well. They're Kabir and Michael. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to bring the webinar to a close because we've been online for 50 minutes, which I think is ample time for everyone to absorb all of the insights. So thank you so much to both of you. Really, I'm very grateful for your time. I'm very grateful for you being so open and honest and sharing your insights. So finally, from us at Truth, what I'd like to say to anyone who's listening to our webinars, if you have any particular subjects that you want to hear about, send them over and we'll do our best to accommodate a separate webinar. It's great fun for us to pull this together and great to reply to what the South African industry needs to hear about. One more question, don't go anybody. It's just a thank you from George. So thank you, George, for your compliment. I'll pass it on. There you go, Michael and Kabir. And finally, from Truth, really, those of you who do know us know that we also offer education programs. Mike has been part of one of those. We have online courses, and we'd like to offer a 20% discount to any of our participants in the webinars. So Lauren will be sending out details with that 20%. Kabir as well. You've completed your program as well. So two of the students from our course are in front of us now, but 20% available. Lauren will send you a link with today's webinar and details of how to receive that. So thank you very much, everybody, and wishing you a wonderful end of day. We're almost at the end of the day, so Friday tomorrow.